Well, my name is Brinsley McNamara, and welcome to the Weird Ireland podcast. I didn't do a written intro at the time of this interview, but this time I'm chatting with IX Falls, a breakcore / atmospheric drum and bass producer who started off rapping originally. I've been listening to IX Falls' real name Rian for a few years now, and it's actually pretty funny. I was pretty sure I'd seen on Rian's socials over the years that he's from Ireland, but when I went to look recently, I couldn't see any indication where IX Falls was from. But I could have sworn I'd seen it over the years somewhere that it was Ireland. So then I checked out IX Falls' SoundCloud, and the bio literally just said one word, Dundalk. And that was good enough for me, so I reached out to Rian and we met and chatted in the Spirit Store in Dundalk. If you don't know what breakcore music sounds like, give IX Falls a listen. It's spelled IX Falls and the S is like a $sign. In fact, he's got a new tune out right now called Voyager. I'll put that in the description of this podcast episode. Now, onto the podcast. Enjoy. Yeah, and I'll just chop suey this afterwards. So yeah, when did you, Falls, when did you...
Don't say that.
Don't say Falls. Yeah.
Actually, just use... For the introduction, IX Falls, but then from here, just use Rian.
Rian, okay.
Even everyone in the scene just knows me as Rian.
What if you start popping off and then guys start going like down the straight Falls, how you know? It just starts happening organically. Would it be cringe?
Low key, like... Actually, not even low-key, high-key. I think it would be cringe. Like it's even like I always appreciate when people are like, you know, sending me, because the odd time there's people messaging me, you know, on social media apps, and they're asking asking how I am, and they're even like, you know, sending generous messages, just appreciating the stuff that I make and whatnot. And it's like, yo, IX Falls, I love what you're doing, man. Keep it up. And I kind of just have to be like, thanks, man. That really means a lot. But then I'm reading my own name, and I'm like, oh,
yeah, really?
Yeah. It's like when this podcast goes out, like I'm going to listen to the first 2 minutes of it. And I'm just going to close the thing down.
I know.
I can't listen. I hate listening to my own voice and like hearing my own name.
I don't mind my own voice at all. I have to be used to it, and I actually love it now. But so Rian, when did you start making music? And did you have any project names before IX Falls?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, just so for this, like, will I go right from when I started up until like now, like the entire? Because
I guess so. You're 24 right now, yeah?
25.
25. Happy birthday. I don't know when it was. Was it recently?
December. So I'm
December.
26 this year.
All right, good stuff.
Fortunately.
Yeah. Oh, that's all good. It's all good. I mean,
closer to my 30s now than I am 20s.
The 30s are. I'm 32. I'm 33 this year, and
do you like it?
I love it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good. I think I need that more. I need that bit of reassurance more, because it used to be that thing where like I didn't want to turn 20, and then I'm like, oh shit, now I'm 20. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, has it really been 8 years since I've done my leaving cert? Yeah. And it's like, oh, and it's been 4 years since I've finished college. It's like, damn, man, time is flying. And like a lot of people seem to think that like they hit their 30s and they've just immediately picked everyone they've chose to like come to their funeral and stuff, whereas like I don't want to be that.
I see what you mean, but
yeah, I want to keep expanding on that and being able to actually like.
Yeah.
I feel like this is only the start for me now. This is only the start of my life now. That's why I love to see it.
The best way I can put it regarding what you're saying with the start in your life, there's two things I used to always say. One of them, it's actually pertinent because you're 25. I used to say it when I was 25, but I always invent a new age whenever I need to. There's a book called Papillon. It's a real life story of a Frenchman, Henri Charrière, in the 1930s. He commits a crime, a murder. He always claims he didn't do it. Back then, murderers got sent to French Guiana to a prison colony, even in the 30s, 1930s, even up to the 1940s they were. And depending on your crime, you'd have to stay there the rest of your life, or if you got out, you'd have to just live there as a colonist for the rest of your life. He eventually breaks out of jail and lives the rest of his life after a long time in Venezuela, and he died there in the 70s. Anyways, that story begins when Henri is 25 years old. What did Henri do before he was 20? That's when the book begins. The book begins, he's 25 years old, he's been shipped to French Guiana. What did he do before he was 25? We barely know. We think he was a plumber. I think he mentions he was a plumber. It's like his story began when he decided to begin his story, you know, and it began when he was 25. Anything before that? Who knows? You know, doesn't even really matter. But you can also choose whatever point you want. Did you ever play Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion or any Elder Scrolls game?
Do you know, I feel awful that I haven't played any Elder Scrolls, or like, because I'll be straight up honest with you right now, like my entire, like I was a huge gaming person from like the age of maybe, like, I mean, because I own like the GameCube, the PS1.
Oh, really? GameCube?
Oh yeah, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, PS1, 2, 3, right up till the PS4. which I then sold in 2015 because I started a gaming channel when I was 13 years old, and I used to do Call of Duty and Minecraft gameplays.
Yeah.
And I did that from 2013 till 2015. And the reason I sold my PS4 was because a few months before that, everyone in my school found my channel. And I got severely bullied for it. People used to write my YouTube name on the bathroom walls and stuff, and like they'd say it like behind me in the back of class, and like it got to me way too much. So I was like, right, out goes deleted the YouTube channel, sold the PS4, and then I was actually, when I then got like my first PC then was when I was like 14, and that's when I pretty much started the whole. Well, actually, music didn't start at that point. Music was that didn't come in until I was maybe 16, 17. But I started with motion design.
Blender, is that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I started off making those like spinning text intros that you used to see at the beginning of channels.
Yeah.
I started off with that when I was about 14, 15. And that was like my main job that I used to do like as a hobby outside of school, which, don't get me wrong, was also hard because like my mom and dad were always the type of people that were like, like, you got to do your fucking homework and stuff, and I'm like, oh, but I mean, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'll do it, but I'd always like leave myself under pressure with homework to push it aside. So because I ended up finding such a quick passion for like doing this sort of stuff because my mom would tell you that like I've always been a person like with my hands from a young age. I've always loved to create and always loved to make things like I'd always like even I don't play guitar anymore, but I played it from like the age of 9 up until 16.
Right.
But like because my cousin like just took it down one night and she put it in my hands, and like I immediately just started playing it like naturally. And it was at that point that like they just discovered that like it's not a gifted thing, but I just sort of always had a way that I could pick up on things that were like, I guess, productive or creative in that sense. So I ended up doing that sort of work then for maybe 2 to 3 years, and then throughout that time I also picked up on graphic design then as well. I made Minecraft banners and all that for different YouTube channels.
Really? And you sell them like?
Yeah.
Class.
$5 a piece.
I only learned to tie my shoelaces when I was 19. True story.
Really? I mean,
and I only learned to ride a bicycle when I was 19 as well. I was zoned out 24/7 before I was like in my 20s.
Don't worry, I still don't know how to ride a bicycle. I'm saying I still haven't learned. My mom used to try push me to do it, but it was like because I'd such horrible anxiety when I was like young. So like she'd take me out to the front of the house, and she'd like try to like push me off on the bike, and like I was always concerned about who was looking for me around like the neighborhood, and I'd literally start break down crying because my anxiety was at like my anxiety, my paranoia, off the charts. I was always worried about like people looking at me, and that was a very long lasting thing right up until like I was 20, 21. That was like that paranoia like thing was very, very big. But like I think the things like music and design and stuff I think helped kind of cater towards dealing with that paranoia and anxiety, because it kind of gave me like the music kind of ended up coming into play when I was maybe 17, I think. I couldn't actually tell you how I discovered music. I think once I discovered artists like Suicide Boys when I was in that era, and I saw them live for the first time. And
really, wait, I didn't know you saw Suicide Boys live.
I did, yeah. I saw them live in 2017.
God, in Ireland?
Yeah, they were. This is the one. And I'm so annoyed they haven't came here. Like they've been here once since, and I think it was in 2021. They were at a festival. I don't know if it was EP or Longitude, but no, it wouldn't have been EP. I think it was. It would have been Longitude.
Imagine Suicide Boys.
I was gonna say.
To be honest, it'd probably pop off. Probably class.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, no, that's true because do you know Scarlord? Or does
he's not played EP, has he? What? I've seen him live in 2019.
He played 2020, yeah. Because I worked at EP from 2018 onwards, doing like event management and organize. Like
Yeah.
I'd help kind of like just take artists' gear off and on stage. Not the big stages. So there's a stage called Salty Dog.
Ah, fuck off. Scarlord didn't play the Salty Dog,
No,
did he?
he
Oh,
didn't.
sorry.
I was gonna say, no. But when I was there that year, I went off and saw a few acts, and he was performing not on the huge stage, but one of like the bigger tents.
Yeah.
And you actually like, I don't find that nowadays. There isn't very like kind of dark kind of dark wave sort of trap metal artists playing much at EP, but
I've
like
seen
during that
JPEG
time,
Mafia 2022 there. That's the last one I can think of.
Man.
That was brilliant, by the way.
JPEG Mafia is fantastic, man. He's been a huge inspiration for kind of the stuff, and I shot for him recently.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
no,
the
I-
Academy? Or is it Olympia?
Three Olympia, yeah. I done
yeah,
photos from up there recently, and then after that was Porter Robinson, so all about the place.
So let's go back to you. Saw Suicide. Where did you see Suicide Boys in 2017?
Do you know, I don't actually know the venue, man. I actually can't lie. I know it was in Dublin.
It's in Dublin.
It was in Dublin.
It's indoor.
It was indoor for sure.
Okay.
Because I have the videos,
Yeah.
so I have them uploaded privately on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But I couldn't actually tell you where they were. But I think, and do you know what? A lot of producers, I think, will say the same thing, that like when you, or even artists, that when you see people perform live, you suddenly feel like a burst of motivation that like, damn, I could be like, that could be me one day. I could be up there on that stage.
Yeah.
And like, I felt that every time, especially not just seeing them live, but whenever I was over in London visiting my friend, Florentia. They've been on a few tracks of mine. You would have seen like the vocals.
I know them, yeah.
Yeah, and
I was saying Florentia, and it was Florentia. Is it?
yeah. Anytime I was over in London and I was seeing gigs with them and like all these artists that we love, every time I got home, I just suddenly had like a burst of motivation. Like that producer and creative block that I had before going there disappeared when I got home, because like the breakaway to be able to see artists and kind of like just show their craft to the world and like not have a care in the world about like what people think, because I mean that's why people are there. They're not there because they just want to go see a gig. They've lined up, they've waited for tickets to be able to see their like an artist they adore and love, someone that means a lot to them, perform live, or like, you know, something music that resonates with them, see that live in person. Is a different experience for them. And for me, who's a producer, that experience is like, it's inspiring in a way. It's less about like just being able to experience something that's like dynamic and atmospheric, and more just about being able to experience something that I can take away from and be like, you know, I could use a bit of that confidence and stuff. So I get home every time and I'm like straight to the computer to start making stuff. So it's a nice feeling. But that's the same way I felt when I saw Suicide Boys. I went home that night and I used the same mic that I was using when I was doing my gaming channel, the Blue Snowball, and I pulled up Audacity because I didn't know anything about it, and I started recording in that, and I was downloading beats at the time off of YouTube, like just like Suicide Boys type beats, because I didn't know any
oceans of those.
Yeah,
Oceans of
exactly,
those on there.
I was like 2017. I didn't know anything about production, so I was downloading that and recording on it, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely dreadful. And I choose not to think about it because it's cringeworthy. But I mean, the same way I'm sure a lot of people start off, it is very, very cringe. But that eventually, I guess, just led to, you know, I think the production part was that I wanted to start releasing my stuff on Spotify, but the thing with type beats was that you'd have to purchase them in order to release it like commercially or like to make money off it, and I didn't have money at the time. I wasn't in a job or anything. I was still in secondary school. I was in my 6th year. And this is also a bad thing because, you know, my parents were really pressuring on me, like, you've the Leaving Cert coming up, like why are you focused on making music and designing and stuff? And it's like, but I love this stuff. And by the way, full disclosure, I done horrible in my Leaving Cert.
I was going to ask you how were you in school, if you were like sitting, you were sitting in class thinking about beats or thinking about YouTube banners or like.
Yeah, do you know what? Like my teachers and parents have always said the same thing, which is like, I am a smart guy, but like only when I apply myself I am. But I was just never the type of person that could sit down in a class and learn. I was always thinking about what it would be like to get home that evening and work on a song or work on a piece of artwork or design. That's always been like my ambition, and I think it's harder as well when you're in school because you can't just say to your parents like I just want to drop out. You just have to believe that I can make this work. Especially I think in Irish culture as well with schools. Like I think in American culture where you're surrounded with a lot more optionality and support, like a support system for that sort of stuff. I think that stuff is way bigger there, right? Here, I think it's not as like it's just not as well known for being able to just drop out and start music. Like I think parents will tend to just put, like if you're going to drop out, you're going into a job, like a trade or something like that. Whereas for me, I did have the point where I really did want to drop out so I could just pursue this, but like they were very adamant on pushing me to finish my Leaving Cert, and so I told myself I would pause music, which I didn't, by the way. I would pause music and get the Leaving Cert done and then go off to college to do media arts, which again was also the biggest waste of time in my life because, don't get me wrong, I had much more fun doing that than school because it was in line with the stuff that I was doing. But I knew everything off the back of my hand because I'd been learning it since I was a young age. Like everything that I was learning in college, I'd learned when I was 14 years old.
Right.
Bar, again, because I went into college with the mindset that there would be no theory work, no exams. Wrong mind.
Where did you do this first, actually?
TKIT.
Huh?
Are you talking about the...
Oh, yeah, Dundalk. I never... DK, did Dundalk...
Dundalk Institute of Technology,
okay.
yeah.
DKIT, never heard it called that way.
Yeah, during that time, anytime I had practical work, I could just do all that clean, get it out of the way, and just go straight back to making music, go straight back to design. And so a huge part from 2018 to 2021 was building a portfolio for my design work, because I was trying to think about it like long term, that like if I wanted to get a job in this industry, I couldn't just do spinning intros and Minecraft banners. Like I would have to branch out and eventually like diversify sort of my portfolio into something that is somewhat corporate and clean and professional, but also my style. I didn't want to like just leave what I did behind, like what I love doing, and just go off to something else. So I spent that time doing all that sort of work, as well as making as much music as I possibly could. I was still rapping at that point. Keep in mind, I still hadn't touched electronic music.
What was your rapper name?
Still the same, Mike's Folds.
Oh really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. No,
I thought you'd have a different rapper name.
No, it's been Mike's Folds right from the start. But I done that style of rapping right from 2017 up until the beginning of 2021, I think. That same inspired Suicide Boys sound right through that dark. But I'd eventually kind of like went off my own right and sort of like went into more like really dark rap, sort of like really heavy stuff, because I think Suicide Boys kind of tended to go between, like they shifted between both really dark rap and also like melodic stuff as well. But I just wanted to go straight into dark stuff, and so I ended up finding my own scene in about 2019-ish. A scene of really nice people that were kind of doing the same thing, and they were like same age as me, like maybe a year or two younger, and we were all doing this sort of stuff together and helping promote one another and stuff. And I ended up making a little bit of a name for myself that way, and that's how people first started to recognize me, was for that sort of music. And you know, I think what changed then to going from that into electronic music was something just came across to me that like I don't think I'm ever going to make, like if I really want to make a name for myself in a scene that's rap, it's going to be so hard because of how like saturated the scene is, and how like there are so many people not only doing rap in general, but this like, because this sort of dark raps, dark wave stuff we were doing, it wasn't that niche. There was a lot of people doing it, right?
Not necessarily in Ireland, or maybe there is, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and at that point I think there was only one other artist that I knew of. There is actually a guy till this day that sort of does the sort of dark trap stuff. His name is Van Lawson. And he's really good at what he does, by the way. He's fantastic. And but at the time there wasn't many people in Ireland anyway, but there was a ton doing it in like the UK and the States and
USA,
stuff. Yeah. And so I thought, like, if I really wanted to put my name out there more. Like, how could I do it? And I ended up coming across this sort of, like, I want to call it atmospheric drum and bass because as I was saying to you earlier, there seems to be this sort of thing in my scene especially that a lot of people seem to label the sort of music that I do as something called breakcore.
Yeah.
And the thing is, breakcore is more associated with a genre that was very popular during the 90s to the early noughties. And that would be associated more with artists like Gorshit and Venetian Snares, LTJ Bukem, and if sometimes Aphex Twin a little bit. And don't like put me in a spot like that. I could be even wrong with some of those, but I won't say that I'm certain on it because, as I said before, I don't like to label my stuff. So I will never say like this is for certainty. This is like, if you want the history of breakcore, like, don't come to me about it. Like, there is much more articles out there that delve into that stuff deeper. But it kind of started off like a lot of people associated this sort of do you know what it was? It was all this like kind of anime artwork, anime styled songs and artwork were often linked and associated with our with the songs that we made. And so me and a lot of artists in our scene wanted to jump on that wave. So all the artwork that we did and we used, it was all anime styled. The songs were all sort of this style as well. And like the closest thing that I could label my stuff to, if people were to ask me, is atmospheric drum and bass. And obviously to a lot of electronic producers or listeners, for that fact, drum and bass, you would think more like a gritty, dark,
festival
type,
club.
yeah, exactly, type stuff. But for my stuff, it's just like a mess and convolvulation of like just sounds and noise mixed with like a drum break and stuff. And so I've never been able to really describe that to people, but I got into that then in 2021, and it started off slow. I mean, a lot of people actually weren't happy originally with the idea of me moving away from rapping to this. Yeah, no, they were disappointed. They were like, bro, we're gonna miss you. We're gonna miss you rapping, man. Like, it was I mean, I was, it kind of made me like shift gears a little bit. I kind of had those moments then where I was like, is what I'm doing right? Like, it feels like I should be doing this for them, because they actually there were like, it's annoying because sometimes I didn't think about the fact that, like, I often used to think about a majority of my fan base rather than the few that really loved my stuff. And so the majority that were like, oh, we'll support whatever you do. And then I thought about the really few little people that would message me being like, but I really, really loved your rap stuff. Like, please don't delete it and stuff. Like, at least keep it up. And I did, but I wiped everything, like, everything pre-2020 is all gone. Yeah. Like, it's all gone off Spotify.
I've never heard it. I didn't hear your music until 2022. That would be about where I started.
And that's for the best, Brinsley.
Yeah,
that's for the best. Trust me when I say that. Like, no, before pre-2020, I had like 3 full-length albums and
really?
3 full-length albums and like 40 or 50 singles I'd made in the span of like those 3 years.
When did you start producing your own singles rather than using downloaded type beats?
Yeah, good thing for tracking back.
I'm gonna guess at one point you were both rapping and producing, rapping on your beats that you produced.
Yeah. Actually, I threaded off from that point. Actually, sorry about that.
Worries.
Yeah, so when I wanted to start putting my stuff out on Spotify at the end, this is actually December 2017. I didn't have the money to purchase these beats, to lease them and put them on. And keep in mind, like, to lease a beat, like an MP3 file, it was like 15-20 quid. But like, I literally had no money. I didn't have a job, so I had no choice but to start learning how to produce it. And so I obviously picked up my first DAW, which I mean is still the same DAW I use till this day, which is FL Studio.
Yeah. Oh, you use that? Yeah. Fruit Loops. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, Fruity Loops Studio.
I know a lot of people, a lot of producers, a lot of rappers that I'm aware of that I listen to that also produce, they use Fruit Loops. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it seems so that like a lot of producers, like, I think in the rapping scene, it tends to be like in trap and stuff and rap, it seems to be Fruity Loops or FL Studio.
Yeah.
In more like I mean, the electronic music scene and especially live recording, like live instruments, folk and all that, it seems to be, there's been a huge shift to Ableton. And then there's also like Pro Tools, which is an industry standard too, and like Logic and stuff. Like a lot of those tend to be...
I'm using Logic right now.
Yeah. So those are all better for like live instrumentation, live recording, but... I'll never downplay someone for like a DAW that they use. Like if it works for them, it works for them. Like there's always, it's kind of like the Xbox versus PlayStation wars or the iPhone versus Android
they're basically
wars.
the same thing, just different games.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I'm trained to use FL like inside and out, so that's what I've stuck with. But obviously, you open the software for the first time at the end of 2017. It's like you're looking at like. It's like you're in the cockpit of like an aircraft or something, and you're just seeing like hundreds of like all these hundreds of different switches and like knobs and stuff, and you're like, what does any of this mean? And so like that's like I couldn't describe like I can't even remember what the process exactly was like being able to learn. Are
you a YouTube University YouTube kind of guy?
YouTube University?
Yeah, the University of YouTube.
Do you know what? Actually, no. Weirdly, I'm all self-taught. Yeah, no.
What I mean is self-taught from YouTube, or you just messed around with stuff?
No, just messing around. Yeah,
wow, amazing.
I think that's. I think that's like. And do you know what? I think this could almost apply to anything. Actually, I think I've always and this was also actually the same way I learned how to make design work and all this kind of stuff. I initially it was all self-taught. It was all just messing around in software and trialing and error over and over again and keeping it going until eventually I just got the gist of it. And so I stuck at that pretty much from the end of 2017 until 2020, and I guess just over time I just got the gist of it more and more. And also it was the more I expanded my my discography, like not my discography, sorry, but expanded the artists I listened to, the more I expanded the sounds I listened to, that served then as bigger inspiration for me to take from. Because I will never deny that none of my stuff is not inspired. Everything that I make is inspired by something, and I think actually that applies to pretty much everything that everyone makes. Something is inspired by something, even if you don't think it is. It is, but that's not a bad thing either, because I think being inspired and directly stealing as a creative is two different things. Like it's if you're like wholly acknowledging that you were taking a concept and an idea from another creative or artist, and just using it as your own and claiming it as your own, I don't think that's like a right thing to do. But like if you're taking something like an idea from something that someone has made and like transforming it into your own, which is what I love to do. That's what I've done. I take like bits and bits, like little bits from different artists, different industries, like all that, and I form it all together to make my own little mess. Whether that be the artwork, the song, it's all literally like little bits from things I see on Pinterest, things I see on Instagram, even on YouTube. Like any form of media that I consume, I always sort of keep like a mental note. And even on my phone, I have a notes app. I have literally like a book's worth length of whenever I see an interesting word or sentence online, I'll note it down in my app, and every single thing on my notes app has became a song title for my songs. So any song title of mine you've seen has come from a word I've seen in a movie, or a sentence or a phrase I've seen in a movie or a book or something like that. So I'm always taking inspiration from places. And so
where does Heartstopper come from? You have a tune called Heartstopper.
Yeah, no,
it's probably one of the first ones I heard. It's probably I'd say it's my favorite one of yours.
Yeah, no, Heartstopper. That came from a TV show literally called Heartstopper.
Oh, I don't know that one. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no, it's.
I've heard your song before I heard of this TV show.
Yeah, no, it's literally based off a TV show just about like two guys that I guess are in secondary school in the UK. And they kind of, I guess, they find love for one another, and I ended up loving the show. I was watching it with my friend, and I don't know. I think like I couldn't ever say to someone like it's not actually as deep sometimes as people think. Like it's literally that I like the name of I like the show, and so I use the name of the show for the song. Like nothing in the song resonates with the show whatsoever. I just love the name of the show, so Like, obviously, I don't think I have to worry about any sort of copyright infringement or anything
For the
like
word
that.
Heartstopper.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus, I mean, the medical, profession would be in serious trouble if there was,
No, exactly.
I just kind of when I heard it, I kind of because that's what it kind of sounds like to me. A heart. It's like when someone says a mind blower or something like that. Something that like gets you going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's actually where the sort of like concept of the name and the TV show came from. Was like sort of like seeing like someone that you thought you wouldn't love from afar, and I guess like
your heart's
it's your heart's it's kind of corny when you say it that way.
No, it's
when I say it that way, but
one thing I was quite curious of. So, Suicide Boys 2017. You get into rapping, you get into making beats. What did you expand your palette with, your musical listening to, that eventually led to making ambient drum and bass / breakcore? Or how did that happen? How did that transition happen like that, stylistically?
Yeah, because that's actually the point I got to.
All right.
Yeah. So it's actually less about the artists I started listening to and more about an Instagram account that I started.
All right.
Aside from Ike's Fault. So when I was starting to make the shift over, initially, obviously, I'd started listening to a few songs that came up in my Spotify algorithm when I was like trying to find new stuff to listen to, and stuff from artists like Gorsha and Venetian Snares did come up in my feed a lot.
These 90s groups?
90s to 2000s, yeah.
Okay.
90s to 2000s. Like, Gorsha would be more prevalent in sort of today, but Venetian Snares was very heavily 90s.
Yeah.
And that was that's what the main first source of inspiration came from. But what I noticed as well is that when I was making this music, I'd made one song at this point that was, I wouldn't say inspired by it, because like the sound is very, again, atmospheric, because those are like the main first two artists, but like I couldn't name any of the other artists I listened to. It was just, all I know is that the music was very similar in the sense that it had like break beats and stuff, but the sound, the melodies were very like, they were very chaotic and fast and like just hyperactive in that sense. But after I'd made that first song, the thought, I don't know where it came from, but the thought came across one day that I was looking up on Instagram, and I'd remembered seeing when I was in the dark rap scene. There's this Instagram account called Scream Rap, and they essentially archive and make posts based off of like new releases every week from the dark rap scene. Mm-hmm. They make like updates on artists hitting milestones and stuff. And the thought came across me, and keep in mind, this is when I thought all this music was called breakcore, like atmospheric drum and bass and all that. That's when I thought it was called breakcore. And I ended up trying to search on Instagram to see, I wonder, is there any accounts on Instagram that are kind of like archiving this sort of music? Is there people like that are covering this? And I had to look everywhere, and I found out that there was no one covering it. So the thought came across, and I was like, I wonder if I could make an account that like covered all this. So I made an account, unfortunately, with the name The World of Breakcore.
Yeah.
And it could probably hint why I closed it down eventually, but through that account I ended up like growing quite a massive following, to the point where like every major artist every major artist in the scene was following this account, because I was like every single like day or week I was reporting like and keeping up to date with every single like single album release and EP release that was coming out from artists within the scene. I was making like posts on like advice on things like pitching to Spotify editorials, on trying to connect like artists with like music artists with artwork creators, like people who create artwork for these scenes. I was like suggesting, I was basically like,
you're a busy guy, you know.
I am very very multidisciplinary, but again, sometimes I'm not proud of it because it wrecks my brain. But
I tell you, I did nothing for years until recently.
I wish that was me. I could do with the break, to be honest.
So you have the world of breakcore, and you're linking up all these things and posting all these things.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, the biggest goal for me actually with this was connecting people, connecting artists with artists, producers with producers, and trying to make a scene where people felt seen, because that was the hardest thing, and that I struggled with when I was making the music beforehand, was trying to feel seen, because a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there. A lot of people are afraid to ask to work with other people.
Yeah.
And because I knew I struggled with that, I felt like, well, not only would this help with my confidence with like working with, like, not only would this help with my confidence with like trying to get artists and producers to work with one another, but it will also help me with my own confidence too. And through that scene, and this is why I mainly moved over to this genre, was because I found so much new music then that I loved, from all, like, when I was trying to discover music to publish each week and feature on Instagram posts each week. I ended up finding a love for the genre that much that I ended up starting making it myself. And I was making it whilst I was doing all this posting and stuff too. But and I made a lot of close friends that I still talk to this day.
Yeah.
Ended up finding not only my music through this, but also they found me pretty much like just me as a person to talk to through this account. But unfortunately, it came to an end in the end of 2022, when the wrong people, the elitists, found my account, and they found what I was associating with breakcore,
right,
which was actually atmospheric drum and bass. And they went at me like privately, like they'd sent death threats and everything to me.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, like it was too much. So I ended up just closing the whole thing down, shutting it all down, and but obviously I didn't want to stop with the music I was making. I stopped that whole operation and just felt, like obviously a lot of people were upset and disappointed, because it's like, oh, you helped us connect with so many people, like, what are you going to do now? And it's like, I'm just going to continue making my own music, and that's essentially what I did. So, like, fast forward now to 2025, that time from when I stopped that account until now, it's literally just been producing whilst freelancing.
When you're producing tracks, what's your workflow? How does that work when you're putting out stuff?
Well, I have the best workflow that anyone could ever have, which is I don't have a workflow.
Okay.
It is non-existent. Like, there's been many times I've been actually asked back from my college to teach third and fourth years about music production.
Oh, class.
Yeah, but I always turn it down, because I'm like, I could never tell you what I do or how I do it. Like, I could never be a teacher of my own craft. I just put sounds together and it works. And like, that's just the way my head has always worked, is like, I'm just and it's the same way that, like, I've always been terrible with group work. Like, even in secondary school and in college, and specifically when I got into that agency job, like, group work is a huge thing. But I eventually got used to it when I was in the agency, because I learned that very quick, that it's like a very common thing. Like, you have to be able to work in groups of people. Like, you can't just solo work yourself. But that's just not something I was fond of. Like, I've always been a solo work type of guy, and so my workflow, like, if I had to describe it or like kind of briefly put it in, I make a load of songs, but I keep going through each one until eventually one of them lands. So, like, for every
lands, like, you're able to work it out into a finished song?
Yeah,
or,
so for every maybe 10 songs I make, one of them will land, and I'll be like, okay, I'll continue with that one, and I'll scrap the other 9.
Yeah.
But even those 10 songs, those could take me, like, there's people who can pump out 10 songs in the span of like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Those 10 songs would take me like 3 to 4 months, because I'm such a perfectionist with everything that it doesn't necessarily mean what I do is like amazing. Not to downplay what I do, but I overly think too much, and I think that's why out of those 10 songs only one works, because sometimes less is more. I'm sure that's what so I forget that concept sometimes, and even when I have enough, I think it needs more, and I get to the point of no return, and it's at that point where I can't undo. So I unfortunately I just have to then just discard the project and move on to another song, and I just do that eventually until something I make lands where I've done a little bit but not too much, but it just works perfectly. And then eventually I roll with that song, and so that's how all my releases have went. But I think my biggest challenge though was with my biggest album release, which was Pixie Dust 3. That was a huge project for me because not only was it a huge stepping stone in my life, but it was a huge the whole concept with it was overcoming remorse, overcoming sort of regrets and decisions you've regretted, things you could have done better. And in my case, it was my whole weight loss stuff. I went on a whole weight loss journey throughout that entire album's creation whilst making the album.
2023, 22,
end of 2022 to the middle of 2023.
Right.
So that's literally how long I spent working on the album and losing my weight. And I'd finished making the album when I'd finished hitting my weight goal. And the entire album was essentially like recording the process of not only just the whole weight loss thing, but whatever happened throughout my personal life whilst making the album.
Yeah.
And I think like trying to present like my biggest struggle with moving from rapping to making electronic music has been has been trying to express myself, because with rapping it's all done through the lyricism.
Yeah.
And so that was great for me. Whatever I felt, I wrote down.
Yeah.
Electronic music, how do I write down how I feel in the form of instrumentation? And so trying to do that through like, I don't know, certain like ways of making things feel like drowned out, making sounds feel like really big and cinematic, or if it's something more melancholy or sad, the chords that you choose, the chord structure, all these different things I think about. And again, I could never describe to someone, like if someone asked me how do I make a song sound depressing or sad, I couldn't tell you, because like I could pull up my DAW and be like, yeah, no, I'll teach you, and I could make the happiest song on planet Earth, and I'd just be like, oh, I failed, because it never happens in the blink of in the moment for me. Sometimes I just sit there, I stare, and I make nothing. Other times I sit there and I pump out 5 songs in one day. There's no predicting it, and so that's why when something hits and it works, it just works. But I think that's nice for producers, because I don't think there should be like a defined workflow that people should have to follow. I think it's nice, you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelette. So I think breaking rules is a very like nice thing to be able to do, to make your sort of own wave, make your own sound and your own like soundscape and all this stuff. So it's a nice feeling.
I've always thought your music's been very emotive. Heartbreaker, is there one called Teardrop or Tearjerker or something? Hang on a second here. I
don't think there is.
Hang on a second here.
Are you thinking of Cry Typing or?
See, I have you all saved on my playlist. I just don't always know what the name of the song is. I just know what the cover of it looks like when it appears on my phone.
No worries.
That's what it was called. What Once Was. No, I don't know where I was going with Heartbreaker or Tears.
Oh, what Once Was. Wow, that's an old song. Wow.
That's the first one I heard. It's the first one on my playlist.
Very, very. See, I don't comment on my work a lot or like give myself credit, but that's a very underappreciated song.
Yeah, it is first one I came upon.
One of the least streamed songs in my entire discography too, which is kind of crazy.
Well, I've always found these very I don't know music terminology language very well. Not a musician whatsoever, but with the use of the stops and starts, the breaks, the lead, then to stop and have a slow build up again and then go nuts again. I always find that very emotive and find it very almost like, I don't know if I'd use the word happy in the sense that it can be nostalgic, and nostalgia is not always essentially, at least in my mind, and often it is happy, but it's more like, but it's a longing in a way kind of thing. So I always kind of consider it like, actually, nostalgiacore is a genre, isn't it?
I believe,
Probably.
There's so many like insert blank core genres now.
Yeah.
Like I can't even keep up with it. There's core for like,
is there core?
I believe so. There's everything under the sun, man. It's crazy.
Well, I always kind of fused it with the idea of kind of like a nostalgic feeling, but like almost in a club or something like that. Like if somebody who's never been to a rave in the 90s, which includes myself, is somehow imagining being in one, you know, and how you're at it, but it's not there anymore. I don't know if that sounds airy-fairy, but that's, like I said, I don't have music terminology language.
Yeah, no, I get that sort of vibe with that. What was the song again? Sorry.
What once was?
I think that was the peak of my music. I won't lie.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think a lot of producers will say this as well. Like, and even when you look at all my most popular songs, they're all like. You know, me and other producers have had this discussion like 100 times over and over. Like, I would do anything to swap out my most popular tracks with like my newer ones, and obviously like that applies to everyone and like any producer. Like they wish their new stuff could be like the stuff that everyone's listening to, not like the old stuff. Because like it's hard for me to put people onto my music because I tell them my name, they go to my Spotify and they listen to like the top popular songs. And I'm like, that is not the stuff that I
honestly couldn't. I first came upon you, I'm pretty sure, by a Spotify playlist. Which one, I don't know, because I used to, back when I first came upon your music, I was actually kind of working as journalism at the time, and when you're sitting down at the desk a lot, you're typing away. I was just mad on coffee and blasting music into my head, and going through my Discover Weekly or Release Radar, and you must have come up there, and it was that song first. So I honestly couldn't even tell you what your most listened to ones are. These are the ones that made it on my playlist, and that's the order they came in.
Oh, gee,
That's the order they came in.
You've one rap one on there.
I do, yeah. Banjax,
yeah.
Banjax. Heartstopper's the one I listen to the most. That and what one's
Purgatory, that remix my friend Demi done. This Black Rose Withers is actually my personal favourite, and I always pester my friend Florencia about that. They hate it. And Postpartum Psychosis, that's a bit of a hard kind of style one. There's one like that as well on Pixie Dust 3 called The Feeling Neglected, and Life Finds a Way. That's a
very recent. That just came out.
My friend Ben Revan, he did that song together. So
one thing I was curious about Banjax, I think that was one slight even hint on me that you were Irish, because I don't know where else that expression Banjax, did you come up with that title? It means, for anyone that doesn't know, they might use it in the UK as well. If something's Banjax, it's broken.
That's And I actually got a few questions about what on earth that title meant by the Americans. They were like,
it sounds hard. It sounds hard as fuck. But like, they wonder what it really Banjax. It sounds hard as fuck. But they wonder what that means. Yeah.
You know, I've always wanted to sort of like incorporate more like Irish terminology and slang into my song titles, but I have a feeling like I don't know when too far is too far to the point where like people just won't even know what I'm talking about. Or like
also the line between cool and cringy is really thin with that kind of thing.
Exactly. No, there's a very, very, very fine line between like when it makes sense and it kind of works sort of like with the music. Like Banjax in this case, it kind of is very on par with the sort of really dark kind of, it's slightly kind of a funk track mixed with dark trap.
It's kind of different from, well, I mean, I know there's a rap vocal on it, but it's not,
it's very different from
I wouldn't have called that breakcore / ambient.
Oh, no, not at all. No. That's kind of, it's weird because when I made that transition, I hadn't fully stopped making my rap stuff. I just slowed down like drastically. So I think like when I started making the atmospheric drum and bass stuff, I maybe released like 2 or 3 more rap songs until eventually I just stopped the whole thing altogether. Just because I didn't know how to stop it right away, because I still enjoyed it. So I just wanted to keep releasing until eventually I could fully transition over to making electronic music, you know. So
which is easier to bash out, like something like Banjax or something like What Once Was?
Easier to what, sorry?
Which one's easier to bash out, like to get it out, to at least easier for you?
Banjax, 100%.
Really, yeah?
Absolutely. Man, rapping and stuff just kind of came off the top of my head. Like, it rolled off my tongue like it was nothing. Whereas, like, when you have to produce a whole song, like, I mean, for some people, like, I've said a lot of the time less is more, and I had this discussion with a friend once where I often thought about releasing songs a lot more where I don't actually put in as much effort as I do, because sometimes people actually just like that more. People like to not have to think about the song they're listening to, all like really complex sound design and all this stuff. Sometimes people just want to chill and listen to a song, and you know, in which case I think What Once Was is a sort of good example of that. There's not much going on, but it's enough to kind of, you know, get your head going a little bit, but you know, I want to make more stuff like that, because a lot of stuff I make is very energy driven, very climatic, and just full of energy and aggressiveness and harshness. And I'm trying to move away from that and move towards more laid back and relaxed sort of sounds. So that's what I've been trying to aim towards, because I'm currently working on a new album at the moment. I won't leak anything about it, but a lot of it is a lot more laid back than what I've done before, and I think it's a nice switch up for what from what I tend to do. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I like hearing the variety and all the stuff you make and all that. Any gigs recently you've been to, or any ones coming up you're going to?
The most recent one I was at wasn't photographing, was Machine Girl.
Oh my God, they rock! Yeah, I didn't go.
They do rock. Yeah, it was amazing.
I used to go to a shitload of gigs. Last gig I was at was Nia Archives in November gone.
Oh, you went to Nia Archives?
I went to Nia Archives. Yeah, she was brilliant. I love
Nia.
Nia. I love Nia Archives. No, she's brilliant. You're going to Cemetery?
I'm not actually going to. I was thinking of photographing them, but
do.
It doesn't really go online. It's not really online with me unwinding, but I'm always trying to shoot gigs, which, don't get me wrong, I love doing that as well. It doesn't actually feel like doing photography for gigs is nice, because it's a bit of a mix, because obviously I don't have to spend the whole gig shooting. I'm not doing it for the venue or typically the artists. They're they're giving me the pass to just do it for my own self. Yeah. So I like to maybe shoot 65% of the gig, and then I'll spend the other 40% just put the camera away and actually enjoy the music. Yeah. Same with the recent stuff of JPEG Mafia and Porter Robinson and stuff like that. So it's that annoying thing where every time I see those performances live, I'm like, damn, I just want to go home and make more music now. I can't escape it.
Machine Girl was the same. That was a great one. That was a good one, was it?
Yeah, it was brilliant, and exactly the same thing. Went home and I sat then, rather than going home, I wasn't home until 1:30 in the morning. I then sat until 5 a.m. just producing, because I was suddenly so inspired from seeing them perform live. So it's so frustrating.
So the type of music you make, atmospheric drum and bass, what some people will call breakcore. Is there much of a scene of this in Ireland, or is it outside of the country more so? Because you're the only guy I'm aware of making this kind of music around here.
Yeah, so this is probably my shortest answer, because from what I know, there's only 3 other artists in my country anyways, or Ireland, sorry, that are doing this, which is Harmful Logic, DJ Curran Echo, and Glitch Strode. Any other artists that do hear this, do please correct me, because I would love to. I'd love to meet and know about other artists in the scene. It's not a very. It's a very niche thing here, to be honest with you. You go overseas to the UK, the scene instantly just grows a huge ton. There's so much more over there. Same with the States and stuff too. So it is very niche here. I wouldn't, again, not an egotistical thing, but alongside Harmful Logic and DJ Curran Echo, I would be more known in that sense if it were a popular genre here, like atmospheric drum and bass and stuff. But the thing is, obviously, is that I don't do live performances and stuff. So I put a post out tomorrow saying I'm performing live in Dublin. Most likely, no one would show up, because because a lot of DJs and a lot of producers like to outsource their audience first through performing live, and then bring that audience onto Spotify, bring that audience onto streaming platforms. Whereas to convert listeners from your Spotify or whatever into a live audience, that's very hard to do. It's not really a thing. You can't really discover people through Spotify. You discover them through in person or on social media.
I discovered you on Spotify somehow or another. I saw you on a playlist. Have you ever made it into something like, a breath of fresh air of that playlist?
So I've made it into 2 editorials. One was Planet Rave.
I'd never even heard of that one.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's pretty much for the more alt electronic sort of scene. So electronic type house sort of dance music. And I was on an Irish playlist with an old song of mine. That was way back from 2019 to 2021ish. Yeah. I actually can't remember the name of my song. I won't lie. But
was it a rap one?
It was a rap one. Yeah. It was on. I don't know if it was a breath of fresh air, but I think it was just like fresh finds in the UK and Ireland, or something like that. But I was on that for like the 3 years straight, so that kind of I guess helped in some ways too. But they were the only 2 editorials I've been on. Is
there strategy someone can use to try? You know, like Misfits 2.0.
I do know Misfits.
Yeah, that naturally, like I mean, there's Is there strategies for people to try and get into that? Because they're always pretty much targeting people in the underground or bigger in the underground. Not targeting is not the right word, but you know what I mean? Putting on.
Do you know, there's never going to be a right answer. There is, but there isn't. So like if you're independent, it's obviously much harder because when you're signed to labels or distributors, so like I only recently signed to a distributor, like an exclusive one, and so because of that, you know, they have more ties to Spotify reps and editors. So it means that, like, you know, they can pitch my stuff for me and they can, you know, not necessarily guarantee me spots in playlists, but there's a higher chance that I will get into something if, you know, because they pitch all my stuff for me. But before that, when I was like solely independent, it's just like, I mean, pitching is the main thing, and then also pitching like far in advance. Like, you got to distribute your music like, you know, a month and a half, 2 months, however long in advance, just something longer than a month. And like anytime you're pitching as well, you always got to like pitch from third perspective. Like, you can't just be like, I'm releasing a new song, this is it has these sorts of sounds, I hope you like it. You got to be like, oh, IX Falls is coming out with his new single, which is like got like really aggressive trance sort of sounds.
You've got to write like a pitchfork review kind of
thing. It's almost like,
you know, with buttery bass lines.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Kind of Anthony Fantano it.
Exactly. So you got to really be precise with that. But there is always no guarantee with being playlisted either. Like, I never expected to get playlisted in any of those playlists. Like, I was put in Planet Rave twice, unexpectedly, and also you can be picked up at a later point too. Like, my friend Revan, who I did that song with, one of his songs was picked up at a later point, like months later on. Yeah. Even though he didn't make the playlist the first time, he was picked up by Planet Rave later.
Songs can pop like a year, 2 years after they come out of nowhere. Well, kind of like TikTok stuff sometimes. And a thing like that.
Yeah, and that's the editors in Spotify. They're always looking out for new music, and they're always looking through, you know, Spotify radio and all their algorithm playlists. They're looking through them and just looking for music, and anything they find, like, and that's the thing. Like, sometimes artists, I think, get swayed too much by seeing artists in editorials and being like, damn, like, these artists are way smaller than I am. Like, why am I not in there? Like, and the song is just, it's nothing like compared to what I've produced, and it just doesn't work like that, because it's like, again, there's like 200, like, I mean, it's not that it's a factual statistic, but roughly like up to 200,000 songs distributed every single day. So like, the chance of your song being chosen out of like the just this ocean of songs, it's very, very, very hard. So like, I never really think about it too much when I'm pitching or whenever I'm distributing. It's really like, it's a very last like option thing. Like, if it gets featured, great, but I'm never thinking like, how can I make this song to be as Spotify editorial like as possible, or how can I pitch it to like guarantee me the most, like guarantee that it'll get placed the most. You know, I'm never thinking about that too much, but I
mean, like, they also, a lot of the time they want, especially if you're going on a cover on any playlist, which is doubly good, they need some kind of an image to put there. You know, let's say your Spotify and your Instagram is both what looks like an empty icon, but it's actually kind of a cross, is it, I think? Yeah. And then you have pretty minimal online presence. Yeah. Is this a deliberate thing, or, you know, because, I mean, the image thing could help, knowing, like, having some, you know, for getting your music out there, you know, or would you rather stay more mysterious and less, I don't know, famous or well known?
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? You've good questions. I like this.
Do I? Yeah, I just coming up with these. I don't know. Yeah.
You know, they're very specific, which I like. Yeah. Which means I get to think more. No, it's definitely. I definitely choose to do that purposely, but like, I get what you mean though by, like, you know, featuring images and stuff, and you know, it's the same with like biographies and stuff too. Like, I do have an actual fully wrote biography. I actually had someone write it for me. That's on my Spotify and stuff.
Oh, you mean the bio? Like on
Yeah.
like in your. I thought you meant like an actual book or something.
Oh no, no, not yet, not yet. I don't have a legacy for that to exist yet.
Yeah.
But no, I do have that. But like beforehand, I used to. I do have photos of me featured like on my actual Spotify, like down in the about section. But
Do you? Hang on a second here.
yeah, they're all either stuff I've shot for my Instagram, or the majority of the photos on there are from the Pixie Dust 3 shoot.
Pixie Dust 3 shoot. Oh yeah, there is. I think pretty recently there was no bio here. I think.
Yeah, no, you are right.
I think so, yeah.
That bio used to be there, but I got rid of it because I don't know. I felt like I was in this sort of like state where I was like, all right, I have to market myself better, so I have to make everything professional. So I had a proper profile picture, a proper banner, and everything. I tried to make everything look professional, but then I just got to the point where I was like, man, I just want to do what I want. I don't care for like, labels caring about what I do or whatever. So I wiped it all, and I just chose to just stick to being me.
What'll take you to do a live show? Here or abroad?
Convincing myself to buy a deck, honestly, and the next following question, lead on question, what will convince me to buy a deck?
Okay, that's the natural progression, yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually know. Like, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's a confidence thing. Maybe it is. I don't actually know, because I've never really. I have performed in front of people, but like that was not an actual venue. That was more like a school thing, which was absolutely horrible.
As IX Falls.
No. Just just because I used to play guitar and stuff. So that's like that would be the most recent experience I have, and I say recent, but that was like 9 or 10 years ago. But even then, it was like, I just think back to those moments, and I'm like, oh, actually, I keep applying the experiences I had 10 years ago to now, and thinking it's going to be the same. But I know it's not, because because it's not like I'm going to be by myself. A lot of these shows where producers like myself perform or DJ, it's usually alongside like 7 or 8 other DJs, and a lot of which have not performed a lot either. So it's a very balanced experience across the whole sort of roster. You don't really feel like you're standing out in any way. Everyone's there to support one another, and I kind of just need to get that through my head more and just invest in a deck and just learn. But I guess I've just never had the interest really of like performing live. Like, yes, I've dreamt about it and it's been great, but like nothing has really pushed me to go, I'd actually just love to just pick up a deck and start learning so I can actually perform live. I've just been so focused on just making music,
Yeah. If you could start all over again with what you're doing, how would you start over? Maybe you did everything the way you wanted to be, so maybe you don't need to.
I wouldn't. 2 things actually. One, I wouldn't let negativity and people's opinions try to sway me as much as they did in the past, because they heavily unfortunately used to, and also in school they used to a lot as well, because my name unfortunately got recognized in 6th year. I'm not exactly sure how, but my music did unfortunately spread, and I was taken the mick out of, unfortunately. And so I would try to find ways to combat that, and just like, obviously people deal with things differently, like not everyone's expected to be able to handle like criticism or hatred or things like that. People deal with things differently, but I try to find the ways I use now to combat that. I would try to use that more so then, rather than getting caught up in just solely enjoying what I do and thinking that like, because the biggest problem was that when I was making stuff, I didn't think about negativity. I never prepared for it. I was just thinking it was all going to be a positive experience, because people would think, oh, this guy's out here doing the thing he loves. Why would we like strike him down because of that? I never thought about the fact that like people just generally love to hate sometimes. People love to leave negative comments, and that's just how it is. So I would try to think of a way to combat that better, like I do now. And then secondly, like appreciation, self-appreciation. Give myself more credit for what I do, because I feel like a lot of the time I didn't actually discuss this at any point during the podcast, but like I've always been a huge downplayer of my own work. Right. And any producer like I'm friends with will tell you, like even throughout the creation of my album Pixies Us 3, I essentially I finished it but didn't release for like up to 4 months because I kept telling everyone it was horrible, and I hated it because the more I listened to it, the more problems I found with it, and I just like I downplayed everything I made and all the time I spent on it. But the more people I sent it to, the more they were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, release this right now, like it's amazing. And I don't like to have to search for that reassurance. Like, I wish I could reassure myself that I can be proud of something I made. And that's the biggest thing that I've been working on, is just making something and not having to look for reassurance. And don't get me wrong, like I think everyone should be allowed to look for reassurance if they're unsure of whether or not something that they've made is good or whether or not they should be proud of something, right? But I think that would be something I try to tackle and combat more, so that early on I wouldn't be like so negative about everything I made, because I'd make something I love and immediately hate it because I just re-listened to it over and over, or out of like the sea of compliments, I would let that one negative comment just turn the song into something I hate then.
Yeah.
So I think just trying not to hyperfixate so much on the negative aspect of my music is the biggest thing. Focus more on the positive aspect and the long-term possible success and enjoyment I can get from it, the long-term freedom and being able to express myself just by making music. Like it really is as simple as that. There's no technical aspect to it. There's no rules or boundaries. It's just me making music, just me making stuff I love. It's as simple as that.
And is the advice you'd give to yourself if you could start over the same advice you'd give to anyone starting up in music or as a producer in Ireland?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like there is a lot of people that suffer from that sort of stuff, and I mean obviously that varies from person to person, genre to genre. Everything is different industries, so many different experiences. But for people that are like stuck in a rush, or people that are stuck in a place where they feel like why am I wasting my time doing all this when nothing's happening with me? There's no traction, there's no I'm not growing in any way. Man, it took me 7 years. Some people do it in 7 days. Some people do it in 7 weeks.
TikTok now.
Exactly.
Yeah, big time.
That's a big thing. I would include that in another point.
Yeah.
Utilize social media.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing that I'd ever done.
Advice to yourself and to other people.
It's a weird one, but as unfortunate as it is, like we need to keep up with like the times and like the trends and stuff. Like I don't, not that I want to like normalize that sort of stuff, because I feel like people should be able to just release music, but like before it was handing out mixtapes and like physically promoting yourself to people in public, posters and all that. Now it's all digital, it's all online, and like you kind of have to keep up with that. You have to make yourself stand out. Just making new songs out now, done, like it's not enough.
Even that, it doesn't need to be the gimmicky video stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it is, like, you need to do things that make you stand out, like, uniquely. Like, it can't just be like another reused, like, song out now, post done. Like, you need to find creative ways of reeling in an audience, even if you're uncomfortable with it. And that's what I'm trying to adapt more to, is doing, just not thinking about what people will think and just thinking about how this will benefit me.
If somebody's at because I've never been and I want to go at a breakbeat, sorry, pardon me, breakcore was the term, but it's not really the term. It's actually atmospheric drum and bass gig. How does one conduct themselves? Is it dancing? Is there mosh pits? Do people stand? Is it like a shoegaze one that is kind of sway?
It's kind of like it's like a very laid back rave.
Oh, good.
It's kind of like what you'd expect at like something that was dance or house sort of music, but like for atmospheric drum and bass, because like there is obviously a lot of moving and whatnot. Like I've never actually got to I've got to experience my own music in person once.
Right.
And I was my friend Florentia. They performed in London alongside a few of their friends and stuff, and because like a lot of the songs they've done is with me. And so I got to see that live, and it was really, really, really cool.
And you weren't on stage though, no?
No, I was in the crowd.
So how was everyone's reaction to your tunes?
It was
Let
sick.
the crowd,
No,
like,
it was
yeah.
it was really really cool.
Class.
It was really cool seeing Florentia up on stage, like just kind of singing, killing the vocals, and me just in the crowd recording, just being like, damn, like I produced that. It's just it's a crazy feeling, but it's really cool.
I'm going to ask you some fast rapid fire questions here for
Yep.
the crack. Dream collab. Can be anyone.
Gore shit.
Is that one of the artists you were talking about before?
Yeah.
What are you saying? It sounds like you're saying gore shit. Goreshit.
That's
How
right.
is it?
Yeah, that's-
Really?
yeah, yeah.
That is? I thought I was
It's
mishearing
all,
it.
Yeah, all one name. Yeah.
I looked them up. What kind of how would that go?
Well, like the song. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like because what they do is they almost sort of cross. Like they've had some sort of some atmospheric tracks.
Yeah.
Like they've had a few atmospheric kind of drum and bass tracks, but like they kind of tend to lean in towards more kind of like proper breakcore kind of songs too, mixed with a bit of atmospheric melodies in a sense. So you kind of tend to recognize like the drum patterns and drum and bass compared to breakcore. Like the breakcore, it tends to be a lot more like chopped up breaks, kind of like mashed a bit all over the place. It's a bit like it's a bit chaotic in that sense. Whereas drum and bass, it kind of it tends to follow like that that one single pattern throughout. But the breakcore is kind of a bit more like kind of chaotic, and but you kind of like you almost like make out the groove in your head with the beat. But like he kind of makes sort of like almost what I make, but a bit like kind of lighter. The breaks are a bit lighter and whatnot, but like just still like just the way he makes sounds though is just it's great. Honestly, it's just, and mainly because he was an inspiration as well, so that's one of the main reasons too.
Dream collab.
Yeah.
Who was the first ever gig?
First ever gig.
Yeah.
As in-
That you attended.
First ever, like ever.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez, that's it. I don't know if this counts.
Because I know sometimes if the local one, you're like, does that count? Like a very small one?
No, not even that. I don't actually think this counts, but it was a holographic Elvis Presley gig.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What was this?
It was in like 2012, because I'm a massive Elvis Presley fan.
Really?
Oh yeah, because
Jesus
my
Christ.
mother got me into that. So, massive Elvis Presley fan, and that would have been the first, I guess. I wouldn't call it gig, but like sort of live performance. Not that he was there, but weirdly enough, my first actual proper gig would have been Suicide Boys.
Really?
The one,
2017?
the one in
Okay.
2017. That was my first exposure to. And some exposure it was,
Yeah.
Typically people's first live performances are like really huge venues like the Three Arena in Ireland.
Mine was in the O2 is
Yeah.
Iron Maiden.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you get like huge huge stage setups, like all these like things, like all these choreographic dances and stuff, whereas mine was just like loud music, loud bass, people mosh pitting, and it was like that's what clicked with me so heavily, is that I didn't think I would like that sort of stuff live, but it just clicked instantly, and that's when I was like, I can never attend like I could never attend like an Ed Sheeran performance or a gig live ever again. Like this is what I want to attend, sort of stuff. So
let me see here. Do you remember? I don't know if did you ever buy physical media,
like vinyls and stuff,
like CDs, like tapes, even whatever?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was your first album?
First album I bought actually it was a vinyl. It was a Brockhampton vinyl.
Oh, right, cool. Which one?
Iridescence.
All right, good stuff. I don't know which songs are on which albums, to be honest, but I do.
I love
Brockhampton.
Brockhampton are another huge inspiration. Not that they obviously not. It's not. They're not. The genre
Don't sound anything like
yeah.
it. Oh no,
absolutely
wait.
not.
Did your rap sound like Brockhampton?
No.
Rock.
No, nothing like it. But just an inspiration. But I mean, I love listening to them. Firstly, I mean, they're not obviously they disbanded back in 2022. But they just, I guess, just the sounds they make. It's just so. It's not experimental, but it's so crazy and chaotic in a way too. Like they don't care to like stick to sort of like trending like really polished sounds. It's very like all over the place type of stuff. So that was my first physical purchase.
Class. Okay, now that you mentioned Brockhampton as an influence, can you think of 5-ish musicians, groups, artists that are your biggest influences? They don't necessarily have to sound like
Right now
music.
or since I started?
Is it two different answers?
Yeah.
Really? Very?
Oh yeah, because when I started,
Oh, true.
Yeah.
No, with IX Falls as, or yeah,
because
let's say
I think right now would make more sense because that's kind of the music I'm doing now. But like the influences I'm about to list are nothing to do with the music I make.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. So an artist called Gene Dawson. He kind of does like indie rock type of stuff. Brockhampton still. I know they're disbanding, but I still listen to them a lot. Ways Blood, really sort of like kind of alt pop, really slowed kind of music, stuff like that. A band called Black Country New Road, band based in the UK. And and also JPEG Mafia as well.
Makes sense. Peggy's
and I know none of these inspirations are linked to my music in any form, but it's less the inspiration from the sound and more inspiration from just like admiring the process, the creative process, and just, you know, because I've seen like all these artists I've seen the behind the scenes of, and that's what I admire the most, is that it's just them. It's not like, again, a very polished thing that's like heavily sort of like controlled, you know, by the labels and stuff. It's just kind of them being in the moment, doing it's as if they were independent in a sense. And that's what I love. It's just when artists like that are just themselves and make a chaotic mess. That's the best way I describe a lot of the sort of experiences or the influences. Ways Blood, but the other four is just like a huge chaotic sort of mess, but a beautiful chaotic mess. That is.
What's your earworm right now? Do you know the expression an earworm? I think it's like a German expression that's been translated to English. It means what's the tune you're like, what's on repeat, like, you know, right now, basically.
Mac Miller's latest album.
Wait, is it a posthumous one?
Yes.
Oh, right. Is it very recent?
Yeah, it came out in the last, I think, 2 months. There's a few songs. Oh my god,
I know.
It's probably it's probably the drink as well, which is not helping.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was 3 songs I liked from it. It's his latest posthumous album called Balloonerism.
Balloonerism.
Because the weird thing was that, like, unlike a lot of other artists that have passed, you know, like the likes of X and stuff, which I think have been absolutely treated horribly in terms of like their labels and stuff. Like, the music releases have been dreadful, but like that's not their fault. People like labels and stuff have just sort of tried to put something together that'll generate money. Whereas these, like, I think this is his album, and I think Circles. That's posthumous albums done correctly.
Circles. Who Circles?
I think it's an album by Mac Miller. I have to check this because I don't want to be criticized.
Yeah, no worries.
Nope. Wait. Yeah, Circles. Yeah, I think that's posthumous done. That's posthumous albums done correctly.
Groovy.
Just it's stuck to its craft. It's like, yeah, I mean, yes, posthumous stuff uses old recordings and stuff, but it's not just. You don't just throw the lyrics or the recordings on a random instrumental. It's like it's as if the dude was in the room making the songs at the time, and that's there's thought that goes into them. So yeah, that's the Balloonerism by Mac Miller. That's what's on repeat for me a lot recently.
Class. I'm going to think a little bit there. Actually, I think I'm going to leave it. I think I'm going to leave it there, Ian.
Thank you very much.
Because I'm going to make. We're recording this in the Spirit Store in Dundalk, actually, and I've heard the legends of this place, and it's very nice. I'm going to head off home, I think. Is there anything you want to plug right now? Do you got anything new coming out? What's your socials? How do people find you? Or
I do have a new single called Saints Don't Dance that's coming out on the 18th of April. You can find a pre-link saved to it in my Instagram bio or any other social media of mine, but it is a very hard style dance type of song, and I'm very excited for people to hear it. But Other than that, I don't actually have anything else other to plug than my Instagram. But yeah, no, I'm not shameless like that. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna thank. I nearly said Falls again, but for the minute, I'm gonna thank Rian. Thank you very much for having this chat. I'm gonna thank the listener for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, why not think of giving it a rating? And if you want to support this podcast financially, why not think of buying me a coffee? The link is in the description. Thanks for listening, and see you somewhere else in the Weird Ireland podcast.